Okay. So I should just very briefly introduce Alison. Two more people have arrived, just a second. So Alison Holland, who's very kindly agreed to speak to us this evening, is the founder of Brightwayz, which is an active travel company. It's hard to know, well, you're a community interest company, aren't you? It's hard to know what to call you, but I'm sure that will all become clear through your presentation, because you obviously do such a lot of different things. So I think this will be great. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of us here are really interested in active travel. I certainly am, both as a cyclist and as an environmentalist, because active travel is such an important part of how we can address the climate crisis. So if we could hand over to Alison now and get her slides up on the screen, that would be great. Yeah, and don't forget, if you've got any thoughts or ideas that you want to mention, then just put them into the chat, so that you don't forget them before the end.
Oh, hello everybody. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be joining you. I'm from up in the north. I'm actually originally from Banbury, so not too far away from some of you in the far south of the county of West Northamptonshire. Yes, so I run Brightwayz, which is a social enterprise. You mentioned a KIC, Jane. KICs actually came along after we had started our social enterprise, and we're about to celebrate our 20th anniversary. So we're actually a company limited by guarantee without share capital, but it's not quite as snappy as saying KIC. So we're basically a social enterprise, which is a business. We earn at least 50% of our income, and we are driven by a mission that is environmental and social, and we have a profit lock-in, so we don't have any distribution of profits. So today I'm going to talk about Get Down to Town. This is just the title, really, of the presentation, and also the name of one of our projects, and other sustainable travel stories. So before we move on to the next slide, you might see children in the top right-hand corner, a little boy dressed as a gold star. This is one of our local primary schools, Grange Primary, which is in a deprivation area in Kettering. And our mayor of Kettering, Councillor Fedrovic, who on her first mayoral duty last May came and joined our Walk to School walking bus to celebrate the school's achievement of the Mode Shift Stars Gold accreditation for all the work they've been doing over years and years promoting sustainable travel and road safety and things like that. And the other children, I'd say teenagers, in the bottom picture, they're a group of the lads who came on one of our community rides from Kettering Buccleuch Academy, one of our local community cycle rides that I will mention later. So next, please. Yeah, I'm going to be Chris Whitty today with the next slide, please. So introducing Brightwayz. So our mission, we're all about promoting safe, active, sustainable, everyday travel for all. So this isn't about where you go on holiday. This is about the journeys that you do every day, whether they're to work, to school, to see your friends, or for leisure or healthcare appointments. And the for all is very important, because we really try to be as inclusive and broad as we can be. We were originally known as Brightwayz, as Bright Kids, sorry, because 20 years ago we started a walking bus with our own children down our own street, and from that Geddington walking bus 21 years ago was the actual walking bus that inspired us to set up a social enterprise that would provide the support and the supporting products to enable more parents and more schools to have walking buses. And from that, it's grown out to other walk to school schemes. And now we are Brightwayz because we have grown up and we do active travel and sustainable travel resources for all ages. There's our team outside our offices here in Geddington, looking all very happy because we're a happy bunch. We have actually received last year, the Mode Shift Stars Gold accreditation. We believe we're the first in the county to achieve that, which is an accreditation for excellent travel plan and that's for businesses. And we're also one of the top 100 social enterprises and in the NatWest Index. So what we actually do in practical terms is we support the organisations who are doing the active travel initiatives. So that's supporting councils, schools, businesses and voluntary or group organisations. And we do that in two ways. First of all, we provide products and information which go UK-wide. Most of the councils across the country who work in sustainable travel will know us, and they'll buy resources from us, whether they're high-vis waistcoats or printed bike bells with their logo on, or snap bands for reflective bands for children's road safety or things like that. So the other side of our business is projects and consultancy services, and we do this just in the North Northamptonshire area because that's where we are and that's where we know and that's where we have all the contacts. So some of the things I'm going to tell you now are actually about what we've done or what we're doing in North Northamptonshire, but as much as possible, I'm trying to share how this could actually be replicated or any resources that relate to West Northamptonshire. So as you're our neighbours, hopefully there'll be quite a lot that we can share with you. Next, please. Okay, so first of all, what's it all about? What's the issue about transport? I mean, transport is the largest source of carbon emissions in the UK, and it's also the fastest growing source. It's a big issue. It is something that everybody could do something about. So everybody travels somewhere at some point, or most people do, whatever their ability, whatever their age. We all make choices about how we travel. Even children can make choices to a certain extent about how they travel, and it's something that we need to all think about, but also understand that people are fixed in their habits, and they're set in their habits, and they're set in their ways, and we can't expect everything to change or everyone to change. So what we do is we work with particularly with young people, but all ages really, and we'd really try to get into the community. So we liaise with other social enterprises, we work closely with our council's highways team, but we're also really grassroots and on the ground. So some of the local action that we've had, we've managed and ran in North Northamptonshire includes we've worked with some schools and helped them to develop their green travel plans, and the recognition for that through the Mode Shift Stars accreditation scheme, which I mentioned earlier, which is the government's recognised Department for Transport supported scheme, accreditation scheme that recognises good sustainable travel planning and actions. We have set up our own community cycle hub in Kettering, a hub and a club. So the hub is every last Saturday of the month. We have use of an old, kind of quite not in great condition, shall we say, side rooms of the hotel at the Royal Hotel in the Marketplace in Kettering. And those side rooms are very derelict, and they're only really of use to us. So we have free use of those, and we're there every last Saturday of the month, and we provide free cycle parking, free bike marking, free bike maps, information about local engagement campaigns related to active travel. For example, when our walking and cycling infrastructure plans locally are being promoted, we'll share the engagement and enable people to have their say. And we actually, more than anything, we are a friendly place for people to come who like cycling or scooting or mobility chair, going for rides, any sort of active travel, and who want to come and ask questions or talk to us. So that's every last Saturday of the month. If you're ever in Kettering, do come and see us. And our community cycle club is really set up for people who are not, super sporty, going miles, racing. They're for the people who need to cycle with someone to get them confident to actually cycle on roads and then be able to feel confident enough to cycle for those everyday journeys. So we have that on the last Sunday of every month, and anyone's welcome to join us, all ages and abilities. Ages, it means like if there's children, they need to be with their parents. And we have nice, easy, quiet routes just to build people's confidence up and let them see where they can go. And we are doing other projects as well. We're working very closely with Kettering General Hospital. We've been developing their travel plan, and we got some new cycle racks installed, as you can see in the small circle in the middle at the bottom. That's and we do occasional events there, such as free fix your bike sessions, which are funded through Cycling UK, who are regular funders for us for that. But we also do the consultancy side. We're helping council with their designing for safer routes. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And Bike Life North Northamptonshire, that's one of our programmes which is currently running, about to end soon, and that I will talk about a bit more, but that's enabling people to gain the confidence to cycle and to also make sure that their bike is safe and well equipped and they have the skills to maintain that. Get Down to Town Kettering. This is our project for Kettering, which has been funded through North Northamptonshire Council, through the Highways team. And it's been amazing because they've given us free rein to do all sorts of exciting things all around active travel and the town centre, and also some outreach activities with groups like Cubs and Beavers. So I'll mention a little bit more about that in a minute. And finally, Cycle Lingo. This is actually part of the Get Down to Town project, and this is combining cycle training and providing a bike with English language learning. So it's the initial cohort are Ukrainian refugees who can't get about because they don't drive, many of them. Most of them don't drive, they don't have a car, but if they had a bike, that'll make life easier for them. So giving them skills to be able to cycle safely and to get them equipped with bikes is what that's all about. So, and then finally, I really will try as I go through to say as much as I can about West Northampton and how that can apply to you. So thank you. Next slide. And I won't spend so long on each slide. That was just rather a long one. So what's the big issue? I'm kind of preaching to the choir here because I mean you know transport is a massive issue. Some people just don't realise how huge it is. But then there's other issues around that as well. You know, road casualties. We have so many casualties on our roads, and every week it seems you pick up the paper here in the north and someone else has been killed on the roads. Well, the fewer journeys, then the fewer, especially by car, then the fewer casualties there'll be. Air pollution, we know that is actually a massive problem. We think of it as being something for cities, but no, it's not. The British Heart Foundation has predicted that there will be about 1,700 deaths in the next decade in Northampton alone. That's North and West combined. So that's something really we should be, another reason we should be taking action other than the climate. Congestion, it costs businesses, it costs in terms of delays, it costs the UK economy £6.9 billion a year. So reducing the need for everybody to drive is going to actually have an impact, and enabling people to be able to get places quicker and more easily, more efficiently by bike and other modes is really important. So next slide, please. So who does this all affect? Again, I feel I'm preaching to the choir here because you will all, be aware of these things, I'm sure. Obviously, families it affects. If our roads are jammed up with cars and nobody feels confident or safe cycling because we haven't got the infrastructure there or we haven't got the skills there, then it's that vicious circle of you drive the kids to school because the roads are too dangerous and too crowded for them to walk or cycle. So, but also it's really important to look at everyone that it affects, because if you're trying to become a champion for change, not everyone will be thinking about the same things or caring about the same things. And when we're talking to businesses, we're talking about things like the cost of absenteeism. People who regularly cycle are on average 27% lower in terms of absenteeism from work. So that's the savings for a business. And also think about the space, the land space that the businesses are taking, that people with their cars are taking up. We are quite closely connected with Next, who are a PLC, who they have their headquarters in Enderby in Leicester, and they started a car share scheme with prioritising and incentivising staff to car share, and as a result they managed to claw back a large area of their car park and then put up a kind of sort of permanent-ish marquee and use that as a photo studio. So they gained that space back, so that's of great value to them. And then when we think about, there's a lot of people who complain about we need to be able to drive down the high street because if cars can't drive down the high street, then people aren't going to spend money. Well, actually, people spend much more money if they are on foot or by bike or by bus coming to a town centre, and that is because they tend to come more often, and they will linger and they will browse and they will go to different shops. They will go to the small cafe and the independents rather than driving, just go to the supermarket and drive home again. So there's a lot of commercial benefits as well. Older people, if they don't if they have to drive to get anywhere, if there aren't decent bus services, if they don't feel safe walking or taking their mobility scooter along the road, then it's going to really affect their access, particularly to health services. And also in terms of loneliness, if you are all a car dependent society, they're not going to get out, and they're not going to be able to go places. And I always think there's a lot of older people who are very happy with it. They drive everywhere and they're used to that, and they've got their lovely cozy cars, and they might be able to have a bus pass, but they don't need it because they're driving. And you think, well, you're actually only one diagnosis away from losing all of that. And if you're not actually occasionally going out supporting your local bus service, even if you have a car, then it's use it or lose it. You might need it in a few years, and if you haven't used it when you didn't need to, but you could, then that's kind of that's coming back on you, really. So young adults, this is a group who often get sort of missed out. We're talking sort of teenagers from like about 30, but under all the way up to under 20 to 25. A lot of them can't afford a car. They can't afford the driving lessons. And if they do get those, then they're spending all their money on a car or on the expensive insurance. But they really need to have good access opportunities to work and training. Things like the e-scooters being phenomenal up here in the north in terms of giving those young people access to work at a low cost without the need to go and buy a car or like learn to drive. So children, of course, we mentioned them with the families, but it's them as individuals. They're going to gain more independence if they're going to be learning how to walk or cycle. Obviously, I know how to walk, but confident walking, confident catching a bus, able to cycle safely, and their parents will let them go, let them do that. That gives them the freedom and the independence. It also gives the parents the independence because they're not taxiing kids around, all of us. So really, all of us. Who does it affect? All of us. So next slide, please. So the problems, these are like, I say problems, I say some of the challenges that we come up across in the sustainable travel profession, if you call it that, or the behaviour change for travel profession, is that it takes a lot to change mindsets. Everyone else thinks that everyone else should be doing things for the climate, whether it's about transport or anything, but we really need people to take their own personal individual responsibility and think how they could change. And some of the problems are things like people's perception, for example, of cycling. You think of cycling maybe as a really fit man, in usually white, fit, in his young or middle age, maybe all dressed in lycra, speeding along the roads. that's not what a cyclist is. We don't even tend to use the word cyclist because it automatically does put that picture in people's head. We say people who cycle, or people who are cycling even, because everyone who is cycling is probably at some time walking, and at some time they're maybe driving. So we all, you know, many of us have different modes of travel for different means and different times. So one of the big things that is often said is, oh, with all this congestion, we need to build more roads. But this is called, in transport terms, this is called Bray's paradox, is when you think you need to build more roads for more traffic. And of course, what happens, you expand the road and then it makes it more attractive for more people to drive. And so you get even more congestion. It's a little bit like Christmas Day. You've had your Christmas meal, you loosen your belt and you can fit that extra mince pie in, and you know, make more space and it will be filled. If you build for cars, cars will come. If you build for active travel, you will get cyclists, you will get walkers, you will get mobility scooter users, cargo bikes, scooters, all sorts. So we really need to be able to address this kind of lack of understanding, especially amongst decision makers, that actually building more roads is not the answer. And also make people aware. Some people just think everything's black and white with this. It's like we're saying, hey, no more cars. Well, sometimes you need a car. Sometimes you need, you know, actually a bike is better. Not all journeys need to change. And it doesn't need everybody to change. It actually, if we had like 20% of the population changing to regularly walking, cycling, that would be phenomenal in terms of impact. Or if everybody maybe, you know, change one journey a week, that would be phenomenal. So yeah, there's a nice little cartoon here. Too much traffic to walk to school, so we drive. So there we are, traffic inducing traffic. Next slide, please. Okay, so what can we do about it? Travel plans, I've mentioned already, they provide a structure for action and for success. And the Mode Shift Stars award system is excellent. It's something that is a good framework for, you know, not just saying here's a travel plan, but here's what we're doing with it. And in North Northampton, the target is actually for, I think, all schools to have a travel plan. It says by 2023, but that is completely wrong because I know it's 2033. In 10 years, they're aiming to have all of the schools to have a travel plan. And I don't know what the targets are in West Northampton, if it's something that's even on the radar, but that might be something worth asking your councillors about. And also in terms of businesses, they will have heard of travel plans, because if they've been involved in the planning process, they need to submit a travel plan. But it's not just, travel plans are not just for planning, but they're also for like aiming for net zero and all sorts of health and well-being aims as well. And we're actually doing a travel plan for, we've done the first travel plan for a town centre, which was for Kettering, so it can be done for wider areas. And also, you know, we need to look at other solutions that may not sound like active travel, but actually other things that are reducing the number of car journeys. For example, e-scooters, on average, they for all the e-scooter journeys we've had in the county, I think I'm not sure on the numbers, there's about 1.5 million e-scooter journeys, and at least 500,000 of those, so about 30% of those, have been replacing a car journey. So that's a very big carbon impact. Next slide, please. So quickly now, we're on to the pretty pictures. So I've had all the words and the numbers, and we can have a look at pretty pictures. So this is the fun bit. This is Grange Primary School, who I mentioned right at the start. They've done a lot of different activities to promote road safety and active travel, and they were the first school in the county to receive the Mode Shift Stars Gold Award. They were also they've won the county award and a regional award as well. They've done really well, and it's all about the actual numbers in the end. Ultimately, it's about what are you changing in behaviour. So a core part of the travel plan is understanding how pupils travel to school and having a hands up survey every year. How do you usually get to school? And that is the number that matters most to the Department for Transport when they're looking at funding things, but also to us and to funders and all sorts of people. But what I personally like is the pretty pictures, and the children here, they had a Park Safe Teddy Day. So, and you will be really not surprised to know that nobody parked right by the teddies because nobody wanted to squash them that day. So next slide, please. And I mentioned we also, we help local businesses, and Rushden Lakes actually contract us to help them with their travel plan. I'm sure as many of you in the West have probably heard of or been to Rushden Lakes. They are owned by the Crown Estates and managed by Savills, and the Crown Estates are very big on sustainability. So they have contracted us to work with them and try and reduce the number of car journeys to the site. Now, the most important group to target is actually the staff, because they're the ones who are coming every day. They're the ones who are in the habit of whatever mode they have. And so the biggest impact is always going to be start with the staff. But also we do quite a lot of activities to support visitors and customers who come to the site, to encourage and enable them to travel in active ways, particularly those who live nearby. So we've had free cycle repair sessions there and things like that, and the Voice scooters there as well, and they are really important in terms of reducing the number of car journeys to the site, particularly for staff. So next slide, please. And we have been working with North Northampton Council to support their LC whips. If you've heard of these are called LC whips for short by those in the sector, but they actually stands for Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan. And we have supported the one for Kettering and Corby, two separate ones. And we are now working with Wellingborough and Rushden, and we're a little bit involved in the North Northampton wide one, but as a friendly advocate rather than as a sort of paid consultant. But we are very, very keen to see these developed. We understand these kind of inside out now, having worked on two of them fully, and we're on to our third. They are a really, really important tool for the council to be able to access funding to develop routes. If you don't have an LC whip in place that has been approved, gone through all the process and been approved by the executive or the council leaders and adopted, then the council will not get any money from Department for Transport for bringing in new cycle routes. And we know at the moment things have gone a bit topsy-turvy with funding from the government, because Boris Johnson, as many of you will know, whatever your politics are, he was actually a massive advocate for cycling, and he did bring in a lot of funding for promoting walking, cycling, and got these LC whips really going. But then now his current Mr. Sunak is not so keen, and he's more about creating things for the motorists. So, we don't know what the politics are going to be like in a few months, in a year, in a few years, but these plans are 10-year plans. So as long as we keep going with these and keep producing these, the money for actually developing the routes it depends on politics, it depends on local developers, it depends on your local councillors, it depends on so many things. But without these plans in place, you will have nothing. So I know in West Northampton you have, I believe, already a Daventry LC whip that possibly has been adopted. I think Brackley has as well. And I think Northampton Town is actually in the early stages. So I would absolutely urge you to look out for information about the Northampton Town LC whip, and make sure you have your say, make sure you give your support, make sure you share your local knowledge of which routes really need sorting out, because there's always people, when they try to bring in new routes and things, there's always going to be many people backlash against it. But what's important is that the councillors and politicians understand that there is support for them, and understanding all the benefits. It's not just about climate, it's about access to employment and all sorts of benefits. So that's probably my key message, is make sure you know what's going on with your own LC whips and get involved. Next slide, please. So I mentioned this, our community cycle club every last Sunday of the month. So there's a nice couple of pictures. We went off to Wicksteed Park and ended up with a nice photo call by the lake. So it's, you know, it's just a lovely thing to do on a Sunday. And next slide, please. Bike Life. Now, this is our project that we've been running over the last 3 months to basically equip people with a bike if they don't have one, to fix one if they do have one, to teach them how to fix it, to give them cycle confidence skills, starting on the playground and then eventually going out onto a road as a ledge ride. And then at the end, they get a voucher either towards bits for their bike, or it can be to keep a refurbished bike if they've borrowed one for the session. And I know that in West Northamptonshire, you've had a similar scheme that was running end of last year, and now some nice leisure rides and cycle rides are being run by the organisation Space to Talk, who are based at Delapre Abbey. So if you're interested in doing things like that there, then, you know, get in touch with them. It's particularly the rides, I know they're very hot on. So make them the most of what you have in your area. So next slide, please. Get down to town. This is, as I mentioned, we're the first town in the UK to be accredited with the ModeShift Stars Award accreditation for an actual town centre. And this project's funded via North Northampton Council, funded by the DFT. And we have, these are just some of the activities, basically. The circle logo is a sticker that goes in the shop windows of any business or shop who is actively supporting us in some way. And we're hoping to get more of those spread around. The photo in the bottom left is the people walking in the park. That's the grain walk. So the project is about not just having our own activities, but promoting and supporting those already going on in the community. And that GRAIN stands for the Ghanaian Residents Association in Northampton, and they have regular health walks, and we funded a nice Ghanaian picnic at the end to support them and help boost their numbers. I've mentioned our cycle hub. That's the picture in the middle. That's our hub on the last Saturday of the month in Kettering Town Centre. And then the photo at the top on the right, that's when we had our scooter disco day in the town centre. That was a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic turnout, really. It was really cold, but kids came along and they got to borrow a scooter, or adults as well, and they scooted round and round. Some of them kept going for about 3 or 4 hours. It was quite amazing, and it was very popular, and we had some music and information, and it was just a great event. And then we have the brownies here. That's an example of our outreach work we do. We went out talking about reflectors and Be Bright, Be Seen, and they had to go on our smoothie bike as well. So next slide, please. Okay, and we're nearly there. So it's quite a lot of slides and quite a lot of talking, sorry. Cycle Lingo, this is a project I mentioned. This is with our Ukrainian refugees, and these are the bikes that they've just received. They're refurbished bikes. They've all learned how to cycle, some of them from scratch. The lady on the right, who's sitting on a bike, she came to us, she said, it's my dream to be able to cycle. And 3 lessons later, she was actually cycling and able to cycle out on the roads and be a safe cyclist. So they've all now got bikes, so that gives them the freedom to get around. And that's the hub, actually, the Royal Hotel, where we store the bikes. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the end. There's information there on our website, and our local projects page has a lot of what we're doing in North Northamptonshire. Hopefully a lot of that could be replicated in West Northamptonshire. So it would probably need a few local partners, because I think being part of the local community is really important if you want to be able to lead on these kinds of things. Our Facebook page has a lot of our local activities as well, so please follow us, like us, and all those things. That helps. And that's it really. So thank you very much for listening. I talked quite a long time, but had a lot to say. So there we are. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. You're right, there was a lot to say. And yeah, I feel like you probably skimmed across the surface of a lot of it too, because that's excellent. Such a great range of different projects addressing different things. That's fantastic. I see we've got quite a few comments, so I'll go through those rather than rambling on myself too much. So David Garlick asks, he says, Northampton has a wide variety of cycle groups which don't seem to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Do the groups in the north work together?
We tend to be quite good in Kettering, because we've got Kettering CycleClub, who are the guys who, and women, who like going a long way and going quite fast, and they're really supportive of us. Sometimes their leaders will come and help us ride leaders. So within Kettering, I would say it's pretty good. We've got Rocky and Wheelers in Corby. It would be nice to connect better to more of them. We've got Critical Mass Group in Wellingborough. So yeah, we do a bit, but we could do more so. And yeah, that's a very good point actually.
Thank you very much. And then question from Dave Anderson. Two questions actually. I'll take them separately. So how did you build the relationship with the council? Were they like running towards you going, please tell us about active travel, or did you have to prise the door open a bit more slowly?
It all happened in lockdown. It was thanks to lockdown really, because I mean, I've personally known a few people when it's Northamptonshire County Council. I personally knew some people, but they never had any money. But they knew of us and they supported our original walking bus 20 years ago. So and it was also once we started actually doing projects that they sort of became a bit more interested in us. But during lockdown, I actually was on furlough, so I wasn't working. But you know what it's like when your job is a passion, your brain's still there. And I set up a Twitter group called Northampton Streets for All, and connected with lots of people who've been talking about active travel around the county, north and west. And we kind of connected together, met some really great people through that. And then I got a talk to a councillor. I said, why don't the council do this? And she said, you need to go and talk to so-and-so. So I got to talk to Jason Smithers, who's the transport portfolio holder, through this connection. And they kind of actually liked the ideas that I started putting to them. And I was always like trying not to be overcritical and be like and now they see us as a sort of friendly, critical friend. And of course, he's now the leader of the council in the north. So he's having that connection with him has helped. And and then when funding pots come up, they're given some money and they don't have the resources to do the right things with it, what they want to do with it internally, because they didn't have the staff. So they put it out they asked for suggestions and proposals, had to put it out to tender, and then that's how we got the funding to actually do projects. And then once we're actually delivering projects for them and getting paid for it, you get listened to a lot more, because they care what's happening with their money. So it's built up very gradually, but lockdown was the start really.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. And I think it sort of reinforces the fact that the council, like every other organisation, is just made up of people, isn't it? So if you can get contact with the people. And then this is hopefully this, not that was a long answer, but it was a good answer. The next question I think should have a shorter answer. Dave's other question is how many people work at Brightwayz? I'm hoping you're not doing all of it yourself, otherwise you'd be
I'll be pretty exhausted. I'm just trying to count, because we've just got somebody new come on. So our core team, there's myself, my husband, my colleague Jackie, there are 3 of us are directors, and then we've got two project staff, one of whom actually is a counsellor, coincidentally, and 1 marketing part. So there's like 6 of us as the core team, but there's far more of us because we have things like mechanics and cycle trainers who we buy their service in as we go, and we have our Ukrainian translator, for example. So there's a lot more.
So that's actually a very real example of what people like to call the green economy, and creating jobs locally and providing work for local people with skills.
I mean, you know, giving a Ukrainian refugee a job is like, it makes a real difference, and they're very loyal and very, because they believe in what we're doing as well, because it's very passionate about cycling.
Thank you. So and just on the LC whips that you talked about, Rupert Frost has put a link into the chat, which it would be useful if everybody could follow, I think, which is about, I think, because I was about to say that I think a certain number of the LC whips are out for consultation at the moment. Are you able to, do you happen to recall which ones, Rupert?
Well, they're all there. You've got until I'm particularly focused on the Damchon because that's where I'm from, but it's until the 25th of February.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we've still got a couple of weeks, I guess, to do something about those. So that would be really useful.
I think 10 days. Slightly different stages, probably, because I'm sure the Northampton one's quite early stages at the moment. Is it? I think.
Actually, I only know about those. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I only know about those 3.
Because the 3 on there are then Toaster, Daventry, and Brackley, aren't they? I think, yeah. So all definitely worth looking at.
A good contact, if you want to know the status of LC whips in the county in West Northampton, Neil Holland. If anyone knows him, he's a walking and cycling officer, and him and Esme Cushing are both sort of managing the LC whips in the West.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I attended LC Whip 1 for Northampton yesterday, so
brilliant.
That it was really well attended.
Oh, excellent. That's good to know. Lovely, thank you. So yes, actually that follows on quite nicely from that, doesn't it, Dave? Because you put a comment in the chat to say that you just attended that session, and asking a follow-up question: did the LC whips that you were involved in address the state of current infrastructure?
Address it, as in recognise it, but we haven't actually had anything built yet because we haven't got the funding, so depends what you mean by address. But yes, that's one of the things that the engineers do. They will, or they should do, is go out and say, this is, you know, this is
not fit for purpose or whatever.
No drop curve pavement here, or I mean, I know everyone will sort of say, oh, potholes, but it's actually more about the sort of walking and cycling. And potholes obviously are part of cycling, but it's you know, it's things like crossings and how many phases to get across the road here, and you know, what are the barriers to getting from one end of town to the other.
Okay, thank you.
I think that was, just to jump in there, Alison, that was one of the points that a few people raised. An audit of exactly what exists at the moment and is kind of being used and what state it's in. Because I think, because I don't think any of us yet have seen LC whips in action, other than obviously the consultation and the work being done and then ultimately being adopted. I think most people involved, and I don't know if you've got any experience of this, of when money's become available, it always tends to be for shiny new things. And a few people did say that what's the point of, we have to be careful of implementing shiny new when we're not, we got already.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, that's what we've sort of had happen in our library in Kettering is, you know, build a brand new, spanking new bit on the back when actually the roof needed fixing first. So, yeah, I mean, really, LC whip, a good LC whip will address the condition and needing and recognise even not just things that need maintaining or repairing, but they will address this needs to be regularly chopped back along here and things like that. It will mention those things, and really, you know, good LC whip should have some like quick wins in it. So, and sometimes maintaining or repairing what we've already got is a really good quick win, or just putting signposts up to highlight that you do have a cycle route here, because that's the thing around Kettering, is that a lot of people don't realise that there are a lot of shared use cycle paths, which are not ideal, because LC whips, the new guidance from the government says that cycling and walking should be separated. But to just highlight what's already there. We're lucky in Kettering, we've actually got some really good maps that were done by the council, and they've been really, really useful through the engagement process. Whereas now we're starting to work in Wellingborough and Rushden, we're finding one of the problems is there don't seem to be many maps around or signs out there.
Oh, good actually, Nick. That was my concern, is this going to be more of a theoretical exercise rather than practical? It sounds like they are highly practical as well.
Yes, yeah, they should be. And I mean, people like Esme and Neil, that, you know, they've got a lot of experience now in doing it, so they've got their eyes open to what's needed. So yeah, they should be practical. And you know, you think, oh well, you just got a plan at the end of it. The thing is, you will not get any funding unless you've got that plan in place and approved. So it's the first step in the stage of getting what you actually need.
That's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So let me just have I'm just trying to sort out somebody's problem with I don't know if that anyway. So Martin Coombs has asked a question, apart from the question about why for some reason the video won't work, which I don't know the answer to, but to say that his problems with cycling are when cycling are potholes with obviously potential damage to himself or his bike, cars getting too close, cars parked in cycle lanes, and the high chance of having your bike stolen when it's chained up. And do you liaise with the police and council about these problems?
Well, you're usually somebody from the roads policing should be invited as a key stakeholder on any LC whip. We do liaise with the police, we do free cycle marking, and then sometimes they do it, but to be honest, I think that's a little bit of a, you know, like a patch on. It's not really
it's not really addressing the cause, is it?
No, it's not. But it can help, because a lot of bikes are actually stolen, maybe like for a journey home, and then dumped in a ditch, and then when they're recovered, they need to get them back to people. You know, we would really like to see better secure cycle storage, especially in places like town centres and outside sports facilities, because that is really, really needed. If you've got secure covered storage for longer term stays, that's really important. But it's also, you know, it's kind of, people maybe need to sort of think about maybe having a cheaper bike. Like if you've got a £3,000 bike and you cycle to the shops and park it outside and then it gets nicked, it's yes, it's horrible, it's awful, but you know, why not keep that bike at home for, you know, your special rides out, and then just get an old secondhand bike, because there's certain features on bikes that make them statistically much less nickable. So for example, if you have like a back rack on your bike, it is statistically less likely to get stolen. So, you know, it just makes it look a bit maybe less cool or something, or less sporty. So there's things you can do. But yeah, it's really, we'd like to see the police really clamping down and making some examples of people who've been caught, because I think they tend to be, you know, regular thieves, not just one-offs.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Thank you. I think that has covered the questions in the chat. I know, Peter, you've had your hand up for a while, so would you like to ask your question? Thank you.
Thank you. It wasn't necessarily a question, it was just information for you. I'm a West Northamptonshire councillor, and I just wanted to say thank you, Alison, for and congratulations on a great little business there. And thank you for your presentation. I actually attended a very similar presentation last week, provided by Sustrans.
Okay, yeah, good people.
Yeah, I thought you'd know them.
Yeah.
Who West Northamptonshire Council is working with, who's doing presentations to members, and they're helping Esme,
That's really
so
good.
on and so forth. So really, for information purposes, I thought I'd let you know that we have someone doing for us basically what I think you're probably doing for North Northamptonshire.
Yes.
And I just wanted you to know.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we actually sell quite a lot of products to different Sustrans offices around the country. So they're our customers and often partners, and they're a fantastic organisation. And sometimes they're our competitors, but we don't talk about that too much. And I know the reps, and we've got very similar purposes. They're a much bigger organisation though, and they have a lot of funding from the government, because they manage the national cycle networks as well. So they're a bigger force than us, but we're very similar in other ways.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I think I have covered all the questions in the chat. If I've missed anybody's question, can you wave your arm at me or put your hand up or something like that in case I've skipped over anything? I think there was a question there about whether Brightwayz is unique, but I think that's probably just been answered, because obviously Sustrans is, as you say, doing something quite similar. I think personally this is really exciting, that there are lots of things that can be done, and that it can be done in a way that doesn't rely upon hard-pressed volunteers. I think that's a really important lesson to learn, that if you want to do something on a long-term, larger scale, that actually there does need to be a sort of a fairly formal setup, and you do need to be able to pay people to do a good job.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's really important. Does anybody have any more questions for Alison? I think that's been a really, really interesting and thought-provoking meeting. And I think as Climate Action-West Northamptonshire, we need to think about what we can do to try and spread some of the excellent work that you're doing into our own area.
But we do have a website. We have regular blogs, so we're very keen to share what we've trialed, and so other people can replicate it. So if you want to follow us on our Facebook page or whatever, I mean, we are setting up a newsletter as well. We do have a newsletter, but the Facebook page has a lot of things. So we're quite keen to share ideas.
Thank you.
We're not precious.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions from anybody else? I know we've had quite a few, so in case anyone's got any final thoughts before we say thank you very much to Alison for a final time. Alison, you're very welcome to hang around for the last sort of 15 minutes or so of the meeting, but don't feel like you have to, because it's all going to be
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, so cool, lovely.
It'd be interesting to see what you do. So
I can't promise that, but I'll do my best. So really all I was going to do was just give some sort of very brief updates about what we have been up to, what we're planning to be up to. Unforgivable. We've had the tree harvesting event since the last meeting, haven't we? We haven't had a meeting since then. No, sorry, my grasp on time is sometimes a bit. So I think we should probably start with that, because I think that's really been a very major success, most of which is down, in fact, probably all of it is down to Mick putting in a huge amount of work and preparation. For anybody that's not aware of it, do you want to just give a very sort of a brief overview of what it was and how it was done, Mick?
Yeah, I can do. More Trees Now came to Corby and demonstrated a technique of harvesting sapling trees that were growing underneath larger trees and wouldn't survive. So we thought we'd have a go in Martin Mere Woods. And we did that on the 28th of January and harvested 344 trees. And the week after that, distributed them to 7 different charities. So I think we proved that the mechanism and the methodology works for us, and we're looking at being able to do some more next season, as it were.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
Wombles came along as well to help clear up litter around the trees as well. And
I was astonished to see they picked up 60 bags of old tree guards, which is just, so that's just on its own, that's a fantastic thing to have done. And just to clarify, More Trees Now is a Dutch organisation, so this is a Dutch idea that they're hoping to bring over here, which sounds like something we can really do. I think it was a great success. And for anybody based around Northampton, I know that Southcourt Environmental have got a Let's Plant Trees Together event on Saturday, because they were one of the organisations that took some of the saplings that were harvested. So if anybody's got some spare time the next couple of weekends, then I'm sure they'd welcome help with a spade.
Yeah, they're down Orchard on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And actually it's well worth going just to see Wilson's Orchard, because it is an amazing place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been in contact, or I've been in contact with West Northamptonshire Council to see if there are other woods we could do the harvesting in. They've sort of talked about something in Daventry, Ravensthorpe and Bradlaugh Fields. So, well, watch this space really. And I've also sent something to Southsea Forest, see if the Forestry Commission might entertain that idea. I think mainly to try and get them potentially to do some other events in their other sites as well. So that's part of the aim. Yeah.
And of course, all the purpose of this is to sort of save young trees that would otherwise die because they're grown in the wrong place. They'd either be cut down or just wouldn't survive. And also to provide a source of free trees for local tree projects, because planting trees is very important, not just for fighting the climate crisis, because obviously we know that although trees sequester carbon, they're not going to do it in huge quantities until they're much older. But you still need to plant them, because otherwise you'll never get any that suck in all the carbon. And given that we're likely to have much hotter, drier summers, having increased shade and tree cover would also be a really good thing. So thanks for that, Mick. So watch this space. Hopefully more tree harvesting events in the autumn of this year. So what else have we done? We recently attended a WI organised event to mark sort of Valentine's Day. It's called a Show the Love event. It's sort of very climate themed. We did that in Toaster. It was a really nice event, actually. Lots of different people there. So it's always nice to go to these things and talk to the other stallholders and find out what they're about. So that was nice. We've got a couple of events coming up where we are talking to local groups. So we're going to a meeting of the Hackleton Environmental Group on March the 5th. When I say we, this is mostly Harry and myself. But if other people want to get involved in Corn's outreach, then activities, then please do shout. We are not at all precious about hanging on to it for ourselves. So the Hackleton on the 5th of March, and then East Hunsbury are looking to hold quite a large kind of green event over the weekend of the 5th of June, which we will attend, and sort of having some very, very early contact with them around giving them some ideas for what they can do. They want some sort of family-friendly event with lots of activities. Thank you, David. Yes, I did go to CD Saturday Northampton. I didn't even see you there. So how did you know? You've got spies, evidently. Yeah, I love CD Saturday. It's such a great event.
I left before you arrived, I think.
Yes, you did. But I saw Angela. I expect she told you, didn't she? Yes. Yeah, that's really nice. You get to go down and either buy very cheaply or swap seeds. So yeah, really nice. So we're keen to sort of get out and do talks to other local groups that sort of share the same objectives as Corn, to tell them about what we do, find out what they're doing, see how we can support each other and work together. We're all very much about sort of collaborating with other groups, learning from each other and working together. So if there's a local group in your area that might welcome a short visit from us, then please get in touch. We had a social event at the museum in January, which I think was prior to the last meeting, so I'm not going to go into loads of detail about that, other than to say that we are looking to hold another one, probably in the same venue, but needs to check with the museum that the provisional date we've set of the 20th of April will work. So look out for that one. Yes, so yeah, David, I mean, I'm not heavily involved with the Clean Air group, but I know that the Thousand Voices people are planning another protest. I'm not sure that's quite the right word, actually. Demonstration, I don't know. Demonstration, yes, outside of the Guildhall at the council meeting a week today. They're what they've done in the past, it's very well organised, and you know, the demonstration they put on are extremely sort of visually effective and powerful. So as Alison mentioned earlier on her presentation, air pollution is a huge problem. I think we've just got far too used to the fact that we all have to breathe dirty air all the time. So it's really good that there is a group in Northampton that's pushing hard for things to improve in that space.
It's very quiet and very well behaved.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And looking ahead to the summer, we're trying to find somewhere we could go for a bit of a field trip. A bit like a school trip, you know, hire a small bus and go somewhere where we can have a nice sort of day out or evening out or whatever, and also learn about whatever's going on. We did something similar a couple of years ago. We went to Compton Verney. I don't know if anybody knows that. It's I guess it's a stately home, but they've got fantastic grounds which are sort of very well managed for biodiversity as sort of grassland. So that was really interesting. We want to do something similar this year if we can. So looking for a venue for that. Any ideas, let me know. The West Northampton local plan is due to come out, I think, later this month, and we're going to review that very thoroughly and put out some commentary on that. Is there anything else that I should say? Have I missed anything? Harry, do you want to shout up about anything else that I've missed out? No? Okay, cool. Mick.
You did ask for comments on the budget setting at the council meeting. I didn't comment on it because it gets quite complicated when you start looking at what percentage they're raising the budget by and things like that. They're raising it by 5% and 3% social care and 2% social care and 3% for the rest. But there are percentages of percentages, I think. So it's difficult. But obviously the main question is there stuff for environmental? And it's most probably hidden within.
It's difficult to pick it out if there is. And Corn has on many occasions suggested that the council ought to have a much more transparent action plan for what is actually happening, because I know that there's things going on, and if you so that they had a sustainability report, and that contained sort of information about projects that are being planned, but it was very high level, and I just feel like for people to understand that the council is genuinely addressing climate change and environmental issues, there just needs to be something that is more detailed, more rigorous, that people can actually look at and hold them to account for. But there, I'm sure that will happen one day. But you're right. I think looking at it's very difficult. The budget absolutely has to be, you know, it's not something that's ever going to be sort of Janet and John stuff, is it? But you know, expecting individuals to sort of comment on the whole budget in a meaningful way is quite a big ask, I think.
Yeah, I think Corn did answer. You did put in
I did put in an answer on behalf of Corn, which was sort of focusing on the issues that we're interested in. And I believe, mentioned the demonstration at the council meeting. So the council meeting next Thursday, I believe, will be to consider the draft budget. If anybody is interested enough to want to go along or to watch it on YouTube, because they're normally live streamed on YouTube as well. I think that's. Oh, Rupert.
Two things.
Yes.
It looks as if West Northants are trying to get climate considered across all departments rather than having a department of its own, which is so important. So I think that's one thing that's happening.
Yes.
And the same thing seems to be applying to trees, because I went on this local council tree thing, on Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
And they've
What
got
was
the
it?
tree man there, consultant from Bristol, who spent 10 years in Bristol getting street trees and things
Is
done.
that, what's his name?
Well, I was just going to look it up, and I can't remember his name, but I could find it for you.
Yeah, I think it was Russell. Is it Russell?
Yes, sounds like
Yeah,
that.
Russell
Yes.
Horsey. Yes. Yeah.
He's very good, and he would come and talk to us if we want. So
Oh, okay.
a ready-made speaker there.
Excellent.
And but it's what was interesting talking about trees is that all different departments see trees in a different aspect. I mean, the highway people see them as a hazard falling on cars and liabilities. Other people see them as an engineering problem. Other people see them as we haven't mentioned cooling when it comes to trees, street cooling.
Yeah, really important.
And also street atmospheres, cleaning the air up. So a lot of people think of that. Then other people think of biodiversity, but nobody mentioned timber production. But of course, they were talking about local authority and street trees and things, not really about forestry. So forestry is very different. On the evening, I went on a forestry thing by the Farmers Weekly magazine, so that was quite interesting, comparing the two attitudes to trees.
Yes.
Another bonus on street trees is apparently streets that are lined with trees are less likely to suffer from crime. I don't know why, but it's that came up and when we were doing the far cotton street trees.
And it's just, I think most people on the whole would agree that streets lined with trees are much nicer. It's a nicer place to live. It's a nicer place to be. And it tends to be the case that the less well-off areas have less trees. So again, it's another way of addressing sort of social equality issues, isn't it?
Well, the good thing, I think, is that the council is looking at trees across the board and is going to, this chap who was doing the workshop is a consultant, but I think they're taking on 2 or 3 tree people.
They've had an advert out for a tree officer for quite a while, I think.
Yes, and I think there'll be more than one, and be
good.
spread across departments looking at all things. And it's not the planning. I mean, up to now we've had the planning people. I think there's 2 tree officers on the planning department, but they are specifically looking at the planning aspects of trees, and they forget all the other aspects. So that's where this is coming in. I hope will be a change there.
That sounds good. So, is there a sort of a rough time to? Because I think the workshop that you went on, Rupert, they're still developing the tree strategy. Is there a sort of timetable for when that's actually going to come out? Can you remember?
Yes, he gave me a timetable. It's in my notebook, so I'll let you know.
All right, fine. Thank you. I'll share that with everybody.
Yeah.
No, there was a report that I read recently, or read the summary of anyway, that was about making ourselves more resilient to heat in the future, and trees played a large part in that in lots of ways. Thank you. Any more while Rupert's having a look at that? But if not, if you let me have it afterwards, Rupert, I can put it in the meeting notes, then that will go out to people.
Yes, it's somewhere in my notebook here. Yes, the work started in 2023. They hope to complete summer 2024.
Okay.
But I haven't got any more details about when the people are coming. I think the answer is we should get in contact with him.
Yes, I think that's a very good idea. We'll do that. I think having him as a speaker would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
That sounds excellent.
He was very good.
Yeah, no, I've seen him before. He's very good, very experienced. Okay, if no one else has got any further questions, we are slightly ahead of time, but I guess that's a good thing. We can wrap up there. I'll stop the recording. Hang on.